Hello there. The expenses and attendance bill for the House of Lords jumped by nearly 30% last year. Isn't it time for reform? Firstly, as ever, please kick that YouTube algorithm up the rear by giving this video a big fat like. And I'm always uploading new content, so please do check my YouTube channel daily. I suppose someone's got to pay to keep those red leather seats well polished and comfortable enough to take an afternoon snooze on. But also giving the members of the House of Lords more in tax-free payments than the average UK worker's wages is a bit rich, isn't it? Well, rich for some anyway. And critics of the House of Lords are pointing to a 29% increase in expenses and sittings claims in the financial year 2018 to 2019 compared to 2017 to 2018. The Independent reports that peers' expenses and daily attendance allowance claims rocketed to £23 million in the year to last March, an increase of 29% on the previous year, according to the Sunday Times. The average tax-free bill was £30,827, which is higher than the median salary of an ordinary British worker, while 31 members of the Lords claimed more than the take-home pay of an MP. And this was defended by a House of Lords spokesperson saying that there had been 32 fewer sitting days in the 2017-18 financial year than in the 2018-2019 financial year due to the snap general election called by Theresa May. And now we have the prospect of the House of Lords numbers expanding to 830, which is the highest number since 1999, when the then Labour Prime Minister Tony Blair got rid of hereditary peerages. So expect the bills to rise again, even with December's general election factored in. And here's what a senior director at the Electoral Reform Society, Willie Sullivan, said about the upper house. Unelected Lords are taking advantage of the lack of scrutiny in the upper chamber. The Lords is a rolling expenses scandal, and we'll see this year after year unless there is reform. And the MP for Edinburgh East, the SNP politician Tommy Shepherd, said, allowing peers to profit from their status without any accountability to the taxpayers who pay for them to live the high life is completely undemocratic. Now the UK does need a second chamber, a chamber that can look objectively at legislation and suggest changes to it that make it work better. Changes that remove loopholes that either get people off the hook or allow them to shelter their dosh from the taxman. What we don't need is a revising chamber that thinks that the only good legislation is that which keeps the borders open and the European Court of Justice in charge, while allowing freedom of movement of just about any of the more undesirable types who find their way here, and that the more sane amongst us legitimately and legally want to have removed. So, now that we've heard that our peers have also given themselves a pay rise, we also hear that some of them are trying to stop the government putting in place laws to prevent the early and automatic release of certain prisoners without any assessment. Prisoners who, if released early, could pose a real danger to the public once freed, unless subjected to 24/7 surveillance. And even that doesn't guarantee safety for our citizens, as very recent events prove. Now I can understand the arguments here, but the foremost responsibility of all concerned is the safety of the public, is it not? And where the law is failing the public today, surely we need to deal with it quickly today. I for one want to see this done, whatever some of those in the House of Lords might want in their support of some minorities. But it's not just the Lords. there are also senior civil servants that need to be re-educated on the priorities of the people. And thankfully the Prime Minister Boris Johnson appears to have them in his sights. According to the Telegraph, Boris Johnson wants to replace a series of mandarins as part of a move to change dramatically the approach in some of Whitehall's most influential departments, Tory sources claim. And it goes on to name one of those Whitehall mandarins, saying, "Senior Tories said Number 10 sees Sir Tom Scholar, the Treasury Permanent Secretary who previously led David Cameron's attempted renegotiations with the EU, as offside on Brexit and his approach to the economy." One assumes here that offside means totally against and only interested in the Brussels view of where the UK stands in the world. And that, of course, is something we can do without. Then the Telegraph goes on to say that the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, has had a bit of a problem with the Home Office Permanent Secretary, Sir Philip Rutnam, who she now wants to rid herself of. And the Telegraph report does say that Sir Philip was accused of obstructing and undermining successive Home Secretaries. And I bet there are a few others that the Tories have got lined up. But the problem here is, from which pool do you recruit their replacements? The issue being that those in senior positions will almost certainly have lined up their clones with the right reports and commendations to put them in the right positions as the only credible replacements. And remember that it's those clones who will be advising ministers on which of their predecessors should be on any honours or Quango jobs list, isn't it? That's how the system works. And I'll let you into a very well-known secret. Despite all the paraphernalia of democracy and talk about the importance of the people, the state exists for one purpose only. And that is the continuation of the state, the survival of the state, if you will. It does not exist for you or I as individuals. And to further its cause, the state uses the excuse that without the state there can be no cohesion and anarchy will reign. Therefore, the state claims it must be supported and protected. But then those in power within the state, and that means many long-serving MPs and lords, as well as a lot of civil servants and, yes, the monarchy, look at themselves and say, I am part of the state. I am a big cog in the workings of the state. It cannot function properly without me. I, and those like me, must therefore be supported and protected as a part of the state. And thus, what we know as the establishment is born. And then comes the I must be listened to, I must be obeyed, and I must be copiously rewarded for my oh-so-important role as a part of the state. Just consider how easy it must be to become institutionally establishment after decades of working within the state and looking out at ordinary people whose lives day by day, little by little, you lose touch with. And those in certain quarters of the state are unable to be held accountable by the public, especially if an extra, confusing tier of politics can be injected into the equation in the form of the European Union. Both the House of Lords and the Civil Service help shape the destiny of this nation, but from a distance away from the same level of scrutiny faced by the government of the day, and both seem to sneer at any questioning of unelected governance. So it's no wonder that both the House of Lords and the Civil Service are avid supporters of the European Union project and have tried to sabotage Brexit at every given opportunity. They are both expressions of the same establishment that has been locked into a fierce and dirty battle against the people since the 2016 referendum result, or more probably even decades before that. For once, though, it looks like there's a chance for the people, as recent events have put the establishment on the back foot. And the government, using the Number 10 advisor Dominic Cummings, has instigated sweeping reforms within the civil service and the Constitution in order to keep the pledges made in the general election and create a more efficient system that is not a law unto itself. Or will the establishment just play a masterstroke in a sleight of hand and simply adapt by removing the old guards of Whitehall only to replace them with new guards of Whitehall? After all, people are people, and anyone entering the service of the state over a long period will tend to become a part of the establishment. This has to end. A massive constitutional root and branch reform is now an urgent necessity. Anyway, if you want to hear more from me, please don't forget to subscribe and also press that little bell, or you won't get any notifications. And if you want to see more of me, buy a mug with my mug on it. So, what do you think of the House of Lords and the civil service? Please share and comment, and thank you for watching.